Hey everyone, welcome. This is our fun live class today on brand comparisons and how to kind of view different brands and how to choose a different brand and what would make the most sense for you personally. This is a group that allows any oil user. I am a Young Living oil user, clearly, but I like to help all walks of life and help people who maybe are just wanting to try different brands and test things out. I'm a big tester and I've tested 23 now different brands. And I'm just gonna kind of go over with you guys what I do and share with you guys like how I would send somebody out some samples. So we've got some people, like how I've sent some of these out. So you can kind of help people who maybe don't live near you as well. And so this is just supposed to be a fun class. We're not company bashing at all, okay? So there will be none of that. If there are any trolls on this video, meaning if I see anyone on here getting upset or commenting in a negative way, you just simply get banned from the group. So we all respect and honor and love each other for the path that we all are on. And since you are here, usually that means you've either are interested in essential oils or you've already chosen a brand or you're kind of choosing a brand and trying to figure out what's right for you. And so hopefully this class will help you determine that, okay? So, all right, so you can invite your friends. This is a closed group. That means you actually do have to add them to the group in order for them to see this. And this will stay in this group. This won't be one that will be shared out. But let me just give you my background so you can kind of understand a little bit about me and who I am before we get started. My name is Jen O'Sullivan. Some people think it's Jenna, Jenna Sullivan, because I say it so fast, but Jen O'Sullivan. And I've been using essential oils since 2007, so not a super long time, but longer than a lot of people that are maybe in this group. And I got certified in French medicinal aromatherapy. What that means is it's the art of consuming as opposed to just topical aromatic use. And so for me, one thing I like to do is provide as much education and content as possible that surrounds safety, that talks about all different types of uses. I don't sit there and poo-poo people because they consume or use oils neat. I consume all the time and use oils neat, which means without carrier oil. But I try to help people understand the long-term ramifications of too much consumption or over applying neat oils that maybe are spicy, like help you understand allergens and histamines and responses that are negative and they're just negative. So we have to remember that if somebody's having a negative response to an essential oil, they have to stop using them. Like there's just no way around it, right? So to tell somebody, oh, you're just detoxing, keep working through it, I try to help people with safety as opposed to assumption, right? And assumptive advice is not great. So I've written several books. I have 7 books on Amazon. They're all best-selling books, which just blows my mind, but in their aromatherapy world. And they are meant to help you learn from a lifestyle perspective, from a lifestyle shift perspective. And so what we're going to talk about today is understanding the brands. And I've got a bunch of brands here. I counted, I know the brands I've tested because I've tested them. I've lost a few along the way. It's been many years of testing, but I have a big, huge box of essential oils. So I pulled all the lavenders out. So I have an array of lavenders here to show you and kind of help you understand how I do the testing. I'm doing basic organoleptologist type testing. So I don't have a gas chromatography machine. I'm not here doing mass spectrometry. I'm not doing the chemist and biological tests that, chemistry and biology. I'm not doing those tests. It's interesting because since I have come out with the brand comparison chart several years ago and listed the tests, other companies are now claiming those tests when we asked them very strongly and very clearly, and I talked to the plant managers what tests they did. They were clear on the 6 or 7 or sometimes only 4 tests that they performed. And now magically all of these companies are doing all 20. It's great. Like, I think it's interesting to me, I guess, how much, I guess, pull some of the stuff that I do has, and the companies are watching, and I know they're in here watching. And it's fine. I'm not bashing any companies. I'm just going to explain some of the differences that I've found. I'm going to explain some of the marketing tactics that happen and help you make the most educated decision you can possibly make for you. And it might not be the brand that you thought, and that's okay. Okay? So I've written the best book for you to get if you want to understand some of the underlying stuff in this would be the Vitality book. So this is called Vitality, and it is a Young Living specific book, but I have found that many non-Young Living users find it very helpful. You don't have to become a Young Living user to find this book helpful, but the thing about it, starting on page 29, is it's talking all about choosing a brand and what that might look like and how to side-by-side test for purity yourself, right? That's the point in all this. And what are some of these in-home tests that you can get into? So let's just start by sharing like the methodology. So I recently, because all of you guys are screaming at me over this new brand called Revive, I did spend the $20 to get 3 oils. They're super cheap. Just let's be clear, first of all. Even from a perspective of any of the well-known, reputable companies online that are not direct sales, right? These are super cheap. Okay, so to get a lavender for $7 is a little odd to me, and it's a 10 ml bottle. But that aside, I bought them. So that's my 23rd oil test. Okay, so I bought lavender, lemon, and peppermint. Those are the 3 oils I always purchase because I can do a specific organoleptic test. So let's back up and define organoleptology. It's the art of all of your senses. So it's sense of smell, sense of taste, the therapeutic action, right? What does it look like? It's just all of your senses being able to experience it. And some people are not good organoleptologists because they maybe can't smell well, or they really can't feel the therapeutic action of it. So whenever I tell somebody you can be your own organoleptologist, which means really hone in your sense of smell and your sense of therapeutic value or action. What that means is if you use a specific oil, like say frankincense, for a specific reason, and every time you use that specific oil from whatever company you're working with, it works a specific way therapeutically, that would be the oil for you to test. Does this make sense? Like, if lemon doesn't do much for you, why would you test lemon, right? You need to know therapeutically what it does for you. So for me, the synergy of lavender, lemon, and peppermint combined in equal parts work a very specific way on my body, and I can tell right away if it's working or not. So I apply those 3 oils in equal parts into a tester bottle that's brand new and clean, and then I apply them behind my ears and down my jawline. Okay, so the question then would be, how does it work, right? Is it working for me the way I expect it to work? And we're going to get through all the tests, so we're going to go through all of this. But when you start to understand marketing, we have to remember, and not remember because some of you guys don't know this, but we have to take into consideration when a product comes to market, right? So like plant therapy was fairly new. I don't know how many years are in business. I should have my chart with me, right? If you guys want to see the chart, it's a really in-depth chart, and it talks about like when each company, how long they've been in business, all sorts of really good information. And that chart you can get at 31oils.com/brand-charts. Okay, so plant therapy was fairly new. Robert Tisserand is the guy who came up with many of their blends on their kids line. He's a very famous person, well-known, good guy, very good educator, and very good organoleptologist, very good aromatherapist, and he's the one who backs plant therapy, right? So when you kind of move into understanding like, okay, doTERRA, even though Robert Pappas is no longer with doTERRA, he has separated himself. He was the main guy who came up with all of their blends, and he was the main guy that really set them up. Okay, so we can't really separate them historically, just like we can't separate Gary historically from Young Living, because Gary Young was the founder, he was the backbone. Even though he's now passed away, he's still considered the main person who, you know, got Young Living going. With Revive, and again, I'm talking about these 4 companies because you've got like Young Living has been around for 25, 26 years. doTERRA, it's 11 years, I think. Plant Therapy, I think they're on their 6th year, maybe 5th year. I'm not entirely sure. I could be wrong on that. Revive is brand new. So people ask me all the time about companies, constantly. And I'll show you real quick. I will turn this around just so you can kind of see real quick. Let's see. So I've got a bunch of lavenders, I've got these 3, and I've got these that I'm going to tell you guys about later. Some other plants. Oops, sorry, my finger's in there. I've got a bone pile down here of just a bunch of stuff. So let me reverse you. Stick you back up here. Hope we don't fall. But I want to help you from the perspective of getting into, okay, a new company comes out, and it's all this crazy hype, and I don't know, I mean, Revive, fine. An elderly couple, that's what they've put on their website. I don't know what that is from a marketing perspective. Do you trust old people? But to use the word elderly is an interesting way to put it. So it's just an interesting thing for me to put that without like really being real clear on who this elderly couple is. And to know that they are heavily steeped with Robert Pappas. Okay, so again, we gotta kind of understand who the players are. And if you don't understand who the players are, or you don't care, that's a little bit of a odd disconnect to me. Some of you guys are like, I don't care, like, doesn't matter, you know, whatever. I want to know who are the players. And we know who the doTERRA players are. They used to be from Young Living. Fine, right? I mean, it's like, fine. Pappas is a well-known person in the industry. Same with Robert Tisserand, Gary Young, and the 5 people from doTERRA, the CEOs from doTERRA. So David Sterling being, I guess, at the helm. So if we are to understand how this works and why, right? So many people ask me like, okay, well, why aren't certain companies on your brand comparison chart? First of all, we don't have room to have like everything because there's thousands of essential oil companies. But like Revive will never be on my brand comparison chart for at least 5 years. And the reason for that is because like they could go under, right? You have to consider a company is only like worth its weight after it hits the 5-year mark. If they can make it through 5 years of business, fantastic, good for them. Okay, so that's where I'm going. And you see this with all sorts of companies where they pop up and then you hear them for a year. And this was the case in point. I will give you a case in point. Numa, Josh Axe. You all know who Dr. Josh Axe is. He came out with this brand and then it sort of went away. And now they've changed the name, right? So this used to be on our very first brand comparison chart because it was all the hype when the first chart came out a few years ago. And now it's a completely different name. I don't know, you know, we don't really see much about it. I think it's Ancient Apothecary or something. So all that to say is that we want to consider when you put all of your effort into a company and decide this is the brand I want to use, my question to you is, will they be around in 5 years, you know? And who's at the helm? Who's the person that is directing the ethics and the morals and all of that? Because, and this is interesting, so when you get into companies, oftentimes brand new companies, they will hire somebody, right, a person to test their oils. They're not going to the farms. They hire a broker. They hire somebody, a middleman, like Dr. Pappas. He is a middleman. That's just one of his talents, is negotiating, right? He's very good at it, and he knows all the farms, and he goes and he is the person who's like the buyer, which is great, fine, it's a job. And he goes and he's making sure whatever is good for the company. So he's sort of like the company's advocate. That's what he did for doTERRA. That's what he's doing for Revive, and bringing it back in. And I have now a testing company, right? So he has this company called Essential Oil University, and he tests. So that testing is now third party, but it's not really third party, right? So again, if you understand, if he's the buyer and the blender and the advocate for the company, but then he's also the tester, he's gonna make sure that the tests come back clean. There was a release. Young Living does not get into this stuff, by the way, so I want you to understand I'm probably one of the only educators in all of Young Living who will talk about this. And the reason for that is because Gary was very clear with us. He just doesn't want us ever getting into the drama and the company bashing that happens so prevalently in all the other companies. And to put it mildly, from my perspective, I didn't want to put Revive on my list of tests. The reason I didn't want to is because of their nasty marketing tactics. And I can say that's the only thing I will say from a bad perspective, is that they came out very aggressively, harshly, in a real odd way, right? To come out bashing all the other companies is a very, to me, negative marketing plan. And I'm not about that. To me, that's a cancer. I want to cut out the cancer. So, you know, they have like I think a 90 or 100-day return policy. So these are probably going to go back. I don't want to put profit into this elderly couple's hands who, again, I don't know who that is. I guess I'm saying that a little bit snarky, but like who, right? Where they come out bashing doTERRA, bashing Young Living, bashing other companies, and claiming falsities, okay? And what I mean by falsities is, you know, they have this odd claim about a percentage of profits that need to happen in order to pay like distributors, and that's incorrect. So to me, it's like there's a marketing thing that's happening that is kind of pulling the wool over people's eyes, and they're like, yeah, right? I don't buy into that. And the reason I don't buy into that is because there's half of the profits, 50% of the profits of any company must go toward marketing. If they are not putting money toward marketing, they will fail. You have to get the word out. What Young Living has done is they have put their 50%, it's actually 51% of their profit goes toward, not marketing, to the distributors, because the distributors are their marketers. Whereas a company online, they have to pay for marketing. So when you see all these mama blogs, right? They're mama blogs that talk about, I tested all these brands and I'm going to give you my take. This happened with Rocky Mountain Oil several years ago, where there was this viral post that went on that talked about, it was like a 7-part series, and I'm going to tell you exactly which brand to choose, and I'm not going to be, I'm going to make sure it's really on the up and up. It was this whole hypey post. You guys, that person was no one. It was a paid marketing ploy from Rocky Mountain Oils. So when you understand that, if you would just take a moment to dig a little bit deeper, you will see that all these mama blogs that are talking about Revive oils are paid. There's no mom. There's no woman behind this. It's literally the company having another marketing company pay them. They pay them. They're not paying a person. They're just putting up a website. And please look at these websites a little bit deeper than just the post. There's usually only like 3 to 5 other posts on that blog with no comments. Nothing. The other one, it's a front. Do you know what a front is? Do you know how fast it takes for someone who knows how to put a blog up to put a blog up? 5 minutes. I walked my sister through an hour the other day to put her blog up, and she couldn't do it because she doesn't know what she's doing. I could have put her entire blog up with 10 really good blog posts in maybe less than an hour. So if you're paying a marketing company $150 an hour, it's $150 to put and these people know search engine optimization to do this. That is a paid marketing spot, and they're doing it all over the place. Okay, so This is where it's interesting to me because it's pulling the wool over our eyes, and we don't want to do that. Okay, we want to look at how can you know? How can you know if it's a deeper look into something? How can you know if this person is truly doing this? Because at the end of the day, there's no person who's gonna just on their goodness of their heart post a bunch of like blog posts about an oil company. I mean, unless they're angry, that you have seen, unless somebody has been slighted by a company, you'll see an actual person post an actual thing, and it's like, okay, it's just their issue. But when it's this whole like, I did a test and I did all this, and okay, fine. All right, so let's move off of this topic, because I know I can get a little heated on this, but it's just, they're fake. They're fake news, fake posts. Okay, so when we move into the idea of getting tests going and ordering oils from another company, and this is what I want you to do. I want you to consider an oil that works really good for you, okay? And I'm seeing some of you guys saying that things are frozen. It's Facebook, it's not me, so it's still going. Facebook has been really funky. So you'll have to watch the replay, but it is still going. So what I do is I get cardstock, and this is just like the actual name of a cardstock. It doesn't matter, but you need 100% acid-free cotton cardstock. And I'll show you here what I mail out. So these are little bags here. There's like, I don't know, they're like little, I forget what they're called, Mylar bags. And you see how distracting this is, you guys, because you guys are all posting that it's frozen. It's totally distracting me. But do know that I can't do much about that. I know. See, you all are posting it's frozen. But it's still going. It's still recording, and I still see a bunch of you guys on here live. Maybe the devil's trying to get in on this one. So, whatever. You'll have to watch the replay. Okay, so this has inside, because I put these in here, this is what I mail out, a little piece of folded paper with 1 drop of lavender. I made these a couple weeks ago, and it still totally reeks, because this is sealed, okay? Mylar, this is not escaping. So I can mail this to someone. They get it. So those of you guys that got this will open this up when I tell you to. And you'll have a piece of cardstock. So you've got this piece of cardstock, and what you'll do is you'll take your lavender and you will put a drop of your lavender. So right here I have some lavender plant, and you would take your lavender. So what I'll do is we'll just do Revive because it's brand new to me. Okay, so you put 1 drop of your lavender that you're testing against the lavender I sent you, which is the Young Living lavender. You've got to put a drop in your hand, and you can squeeze it a little bit. I want you to keep this hand clear, but you want to open up that fragrance. The warmth of your hand will do this, is it'll open it up. So I've got that lavender on here. When I pull this lavender out, I can then smell this, and there's enough on here for it to get wet in your fingers, okay? But you're smelling the difference. And what you want to do is you want to take an extraordinarily large whiff of it. And what I mean by that is just get it like under your nose without touching your nose, and like smell it really, really deeply, and then smell this really, really deeply. And then take the lavender plant and crush it and smell it really deeply, right? Like a really deep whiff. And what you'll notice is, and this is not anything other than a potential, I have no idea because I'm not an organoleptologist, I'm not a machine, but I am an organoleptologist, is that you will smell the actual potential chemicals in here, or you will smell the lack of robust on here, okay? And so that lack of robust aroma would mean that it was fractionally distilled. If it smells sweeter, less earthy, less like the actual true plant, it will be fractionally distilled, which is very common. If you smell some really small undernotes of something off, I have a brand here that is the only brand I've ever talked poorly about in a actual oil way, because it says premium, 100% pure therapeutic grade essential oil, labeled that, and it's not. It's fully synthetic, okay? 100% synthetic. And the reason I know that is because A, it doesn't even smell like lavender when you open it up and you get a major headache, but B, when I put these 3 oils together, the lavender, lemon, and peppermint, all it smelled like was a chemical nightmare. It smelled of just disgusting, disgusting chemical nightmare. So that is proof to show you guys that any company can post and state on their label 100% pure therapeutic grade essential oil. That's what they've posted on their label. And it can be 100% not anything essential oil. It can be synthetic. And the letter that went out to doTERRA people in response to Revive was that their machines are better, right? So older companies are going to have better testing, better machines. They found synthetics in their oils, which again, I don't have proof of this, but I remember Gary at one point, he wrote a blog post on this and he talked about it several times, was that he was at an actual distillery watching the guys put the drums together to be shipped to a well-known MLM in the States. There was only one at the time. It was his and the other one that came after them. He didn't name companies. He just said a well-known MLM company that was not Young Living's. This was going to them. It was labeled to go to that company, and he watched them physically alter that batch of oils and put linalool in there, which is a synthetic version marker, to make it look like pure lavender. Okay, so if you're going to understand, if you look at page 44, lavender is one of the most widely used fragrances in the world. According to the Association of Lavender Growers in Volx, France, okay, this is the largest exporter of lavender essential oil is France. They stated that 90% of all lavender essential oil is synthetic. This is huge. So, and that's what Gary saw was this happening, okay? And this was very early on in the first couple years of this other company getting their bearing. So, what was interesting to me in doTERRA's letter was that they said, you know, the company probably doesn't even know this. This is common, that the batch providers, the distilleries are doing this. They're trying to make sure that their bad batch gets sold. So they know scientifically ways to adulterate it, and the company that's selling it has no clue. And that's a case in point for these 3. So these 3 are what I use to go around the table. Like if I've got a bunch of you guys in class and I take the caps off beforehand, so because you guys all know the white one is Young Living, but I pass around A, I pass around B, and I pass around C. And sometimes people who are like really sensitive, they ask for coffee grinds. So I have a little thing, we don't drink coffee in this house, but I have a little thing of coffee grinds so they can smell it between to kind of clear their palate. And it's fascinating to me how when I tell them, this is peppermint, and when I pass around A is a company that swears to me up and down on the phone that they are 100% pure, you could consume it. But every single person that smells this one is like, that's not even peppermint. It's like, I don't know, like super synthetic, okay? And this is a company that is in my, it's on my brand comparison chart. They claim purity, but from an organoleptic standpoint, I can't even smell this anymore. I used to in the beginning when, I would pass them around to show them how to smell. I'm like, here, pass this one around. I open it up far away from me because if I get any of this in my system, any of it, I get a migraine. That's headache. That is synthetic chemical headache, okay? And this was that company that gal, the blog writer years ago, did a 7-post thing and claimed that's the best oil. Well, that was marketing from the company. The company put that out. Again, I'm not going to mention it because you can probably figure that out. But we passed around B and they're like, okay. And then we passed around C and they're like, okay. And I'm like, well, out of the 3, which one do you like the best? And some of them will claim the fractionally distilled one because it has a sweeter smell, a more mild smell. And others are like, well, this one smells more like peppermint should. But and so from a marketing perspective, most people like the smell of a sweeter oil because our bodies are attracted to sweet. And that's not a huge deal, but when you look at synthetic lavender, not going to do anything for you therapeutically, like at all. Okay, it might smell nice in your diffuser, although those of you guys who know what real lavender smells like now, because that's the #1 oil I hated my whole life because it smelled gross. And when I've smelled true lavender, it just smells lovely. Like it literally just smells great. Okay? So when you then take all of these, and I have tested all of them, if I were to look at, say, like any of them, and I've put them in sort of an order of what I feel are good, and doTERRA is a good oil, Plant Therapy is a good oil. The thing that I have noticed, because this is the oil I'm testing right now, which is Revive, because you guys are all screaming at me to test, they seem fine individually. I don't notice the chemical, any chemical synthetics in there like doTERRA has stated that there is, so I don't know. I mean, maybe that was just an original batch or something. And again, that happens, you guys. And brand new companies, you got to give them some grace because they're learning. But if they have Robert Pappas on their team, they should know better, but I don't know. Okay, so that aside, because I don't know and we don't have proof of that, when I use the blend that I've created, which is equal parts of each, when I do them with different companies, there's a kind of a aromatic marker that I expect from a fractionally distilled oil and a chemical therapeutic marker that I would expect from a non-fractionally distilled oil. So what I notice about this blend, the Revive one, that is odd, it's different than anything I've ever tried, is that there's no lavender and peppermint after a little bit of time. Literally, it just smells like lemon is on me. So that to me would mean that they're extra fractionally distilled. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they're taking out these constituents in lavender and peppermint that are so that earth tone that they just evaporate too quickly, leaving just the lemon behind, which is odd because lemon should be the one that goes first, right? Lemon and peppermint. And lemon is really high in monoterpenes. Peppermint is just really volatile. So it's odd that usually with like Young Livings, I have a lavender left over and really more of a blend of them all. So that was an odd experience for me because that was new. So I could definitely say they're different, but when I think about the therapeutic action, there is none, like for me. And again, I'm going off of a specific thing that I expect out of the lavender, lemon, and peppermint blend. They smell fine on their own, but the synergy doesn't work as expected. And that's what I look for. I'm looking for a therapeutic action expectation, okay? Again, sorry for the skipping. There's not much I can do about it, but you'll be able to catch the replay. Okay, so moving on to just understanding your going through these tests and smelling them. And you can do this with any number of plants. And so like I've got helichrysum here. You can do the same thing with this. I've got some Melissa here. It's delightful. I've got peppermint. What you want to do is just get the plant from a nursery that has the same name. So it's like Lavandula angustifolia. You need to find that specific species, not random lavender, okay? And then you need to have both, excuse me, from a company you're currently using and then a different company that you want to test. All right. So it's that smell test. So the very first thing, if we're going to back up when I get them, so right when I got these oils, talking too much and too fast, I threw them all in the freezer. It's not a super, super, super cold freezer. It's a normal freezer, okay? And I put those all in the freezer sideways. And I leave them in there for an entire day. I want to see if there's any freezing happening. Like Now brand freezes. It's a super, super, like, they're mild, like very mild, very, very extended. So they freeze, and you can usually tell an oil that is very cheap, like Walmart oils will freeze. Some peppermints will freeze, but generally speaking, the oil shouldn't freeze in a non-commercial freezer. I'm not talking about something that goes super low. Anything will freeze at any low temperature. These didn't freeze, which was, again, it's just a first random test. Then I will test the oils one by one, just to see the smell, how they open up. So I just put it in my hand and like let it sit, and put some on my wrist, let it sit, go about my day, come back in about an hour or two, smell it again, see how it's changed over time on my body. That's all very important. And then during that time beforehand, like right when I open them after they've cooled down a little bit to room temperature, I put them all in a clean bottle that has a roller on top. So I always use like a metal roller fitment. And so I don't want any contamination from any plastics. And I'll put equal parts of lavender, lemon, and peppermint in that, and then let that sit for at least 12 to 24 hours. So the next day I actually start trying this. And if I feel like they're pure enough from just those tests, like I didn't get some raging headache and it doesn't smell funky like that other company I talked about that just smelled like a chemical nightmare, I will do a single application consumption. So I will put like 3 drops of each in a capsule and consume it with with the actual, just get it into my body and see how I respond to it. And it was like I didn't take anything with Revive. Now, the problem with that is somebody else who's brand new to oils would be like, that's great. So here's my issue is I'm kind of working backwards. I have a high bar because I know exactly how, the Young Living oils work for me. And then I try other companies, and because my body's used to this level, and if I put this level in it, it's kind of like caffeine addicts, right? If you need 6 cups of coffee to stay awake, 1 cup it will feel like you drank water. So it's the same concept. I know exactly how it should work because I'm drinking and consuming, or I'm putting on an oil that is like super potent, and then I move to something that has been fractionally distilled or is just a weaker oil, and it may still be pure, but it's not gonna do much for me. So that's kind of the sadness for me, where I think, wow, like these companies that come out make all these big claims, and then people who've never used them before, sure, that 1 cup of coffee is gonna work for them, but over time it just really isn't. And so when you see the price comparison, and this is what I want to get into, because if you are really a penny pincher, ladies and gentlemen, I am a big penny pincher. I mean, really, it's really something that I feel I don't want to spend any more on something than I have to. And I've told this story before, but I remember just, using my oils, and I have so many different oils, and I at one point thought I could get away with buying like something over the counter, because we use orange oil in the kitchen all the time. It's like just in the diffuser, and it just smells lovely and it's awesome. So an orange oil isn't that expensive, but I was like, well, I don't remember what Young Living's is, but it's like $18 for a bottle, and it's like $5 for a bottle, at the grocery store. So I picked up that bottle, and what was so fascinating to me is to get my aroma in my room smelling good with Young Living, I put 4 drops in the diffuser. To get the same amount of aroma, I had to put 15 of the cheaper one. So if you do the math on that, they were like the same, if not more, on the cheaper one, because it's therapeutically not doing much for me. It's not giving me the aroma that I wanted. So that to me is a problem. If I'm going to use an oil and compare pricing, I know that I can use 1 drop of peppermint from Young Living, and it's way more powerful than any other oil I've tried. It doesn't mean those oils aren't good, it's just more powerful. So if you're in the situation where you want milder oils, you want oils that are just sweeter smelling, a more pleasing aroma, because you're really trying hard to get your life healthy, get into a situation where you're not putting candles. Candles are so bad for you guys. I would say, fine, if you're using a different company that you like the aroma of better, and that's what your goal is, that's why I don't really have much problem with it. But if your goal is to be putting oils on your children, on them, or letting them consume, right? Once they hit the age of 6, you can start adding a little bit of oils to their consumption regimen, just a small amount. But again, that's huge. And I hear these brand new companies coming out saying, our members know that our purity is good and they trust us, even though we legally can't say that they can consume. We allow, go ahead. And I'm thinking, you're out of your mind, because you don't even know what is coming to you. You're banking your entire legal liability structure on the simple fact that a company is telling you that they're pure, and the buyer who bought them is telling you they're pure, and then his company who's testing them is telling you that they're pure, and it's just money. So for me, it's like, okay, how can we know a company? How can we truly know if someone is lying, right? Therapeutic grade, what is that? Nothing. Gary made it up because his oils were different. He couldn't figure out how to, explain it any differently than there's a deeper action. And when I talk about this and talk about the frequency, and I talk about the way that he discovered how to add frequency, and the fact that some of these companies, they come out here and they hit really hard from the perspective of, you guys don't provide your reports, your certificates of analysis, so how can we trust you? Well, I would say a company that spends $2 million on an internal investigation and then turns themselves in because they found out an employee was going around the Lacey Act. It was not Young Living, it was an employee, and we turned ourselves in. That's pretty ethical. No company, I don't know of any company who would do that, right? So when I hear of specific things that Young Living has owned up to, that there was a mistake, something happened, and they publicly own up to it. Do you guys know how hard that is? Like most companies, 99.9% of all companies would sweep it under the rug. And then to have to pay a fine on top of that because we turned ourselves in. We did the internal investigation with 3 actual private investigators, right? Because something was amiss and Gary wasn't having any of it. And that is the legacy he left, was a hyper ethical standard. So much so that you guys are seeing it in the CBD oil. All the other companies came out with their CBD oil because they're willing to risk it all. We're not willing to risk it all. It's us first. It's the distributors first. It's the customers first. We don't want to risk anything for you guys that the company would get shut down. You guys saw what just happened to a major MLM because of the FTC. Hello, you guys. This is why it's so important to know your company, because they could just be gone the next day. Like gone. So I want to encourage you guys, when you're looking for a company, you want to ask some questions. You want to see, like I hear this all the time where companies say, yeah, we don't have access to the farms. We trust the farmers. Well, the farmers are the ones that are going to screw you. I'm sorry, but that's the way it goes. If you're buying from another country, they want that product sold. When Young Living we have many farms, and when our farms produce a subpar oil, we don't sell it to the highest bidder like every other company does. We don't. You guys, we throw it out. Millions of dollars worth of product either gets put back into the farm for cleaning supplies, like we use peppermint that comes in under marker. We'll use that as pesticides, natural pesticides or cleaning agents, right, in the sprays that we're using around the farm, or it gets dumped. Millions of dollars worth of product gets dumped, not sold to the highest bidder. You tell me a company that does that, and I will tell you, great, go with them, because no company does that but Young Living. So this is so important for you guys to understand and figure out. Can you ask your company, is the gas chromatography mass spectrometry chart that important to you? Because guess what? Young Living has an open farm policy. You can walk onto any of their farms and see the current batch GCMS. Literally, you can see the current batch certificate of analysis and what they're doing. And you can take a photograph if you want. Like, they have an open farm policy, and not a single other company has that. And the problem with that is, if you're going to complain to me about that one thing, right? There's the price thing to me is a joke, because anybody that's undercutting and selling a very mild oil, fine. They're just dealing with something that's a different product. If they're claiming it's because of like price gouging because of distributors, I don't know. Look at Plant Therapy. Their prices are higher than Young Living's in some instances. So I'm like, and they don't have distributors, but they have marketing expenses. It's the same thing. So if I'm going to look at that price thing, I don't. I just say, you know what, that's not true. And if you're buying an oil that's super, super cheap, you're going to get a super, super cheap product. From the gas chromatography, mass spectrometry sheets, that complaint that I hear all the time, I think it's ludicrous. First of all, you don't know how to read it. Second of all, even if you did, many of those are altered. Many of them are altered, okay? Third of all, and this is the most important thing, and this is where I'm going with all of this. I talked about Young Living oils have a deeper, wider, broader therapeutic action. They will last on you longer. They will get into your system deeper. Because of that, and this is important, their chemical markers, meaning the mass spectrometry, that actual sheet that comes out of the gas chromatography machine, is different. Okay? So that is, say, the lavender thumbprint. Does that make sense? So that lavender thumbprint is different than all these other companies. It is different. I'm telling you that right now. It's different. And it is basically our thumbprint. So if we're going to provide this information online, where all the other companies they all match. All of them match each other's. And Young Living's is different. Guess what? All the companies are going to be like, we have to match that. So they're going to give our chemical marker sheet, our thumbprint for, say, lavender, to the distillery and say, we want you matching these markers. And they're going to put more synthetics into those essential oils, and the essential oil industry is going to become massively corrupt and massively synthetic. I don't want that. I would rather these oils be fractionally distilled and stay pure than them all try to copy our markers. Case in point with my brand comparison chart. It came out a couple years ago. I contacted every single one of those companies personally, as did 12 other people that were working with me on it. And every single one of them, we went up and down on the tests. And those are the tests they claimed. Now, magically, all the companies are saying, we do 20 tests. Magically. What in the world? Where did that come from? So even someone as small potatoes as me can affect the way these companies are lying to us. And I'm not interested in that. And I pray and I hope that Young Living never shares their charts, ever. I hope they never do. Because all they'd be giving away is our markers, and everyone else will try to copy them. Okay? So I encourage you guys to look at the different types of essential oils that I talk about: authentic, manipulated, or augmented. 99% of all essential oils on the market are manipulated or augmented. That is just the truth. Not too many. I don't really get into the perfume and synthetic. Like I said, out of the 23 brands that I've tested, only one, technically a second one, had some chemical markers in it that were bad, like meaning synthetics. And then that 100% synthetic, just the one. So I could back the one company up that, I went back and forth with them. They have some synthetics in them. They didn't create some weird monster blend when I created them, blend them together. But that one company that claims, like, and I can tell you guys this one, because this one's not even an essential oil company. I don't even think they're in business anymore. What is the name of them? Healing Solutions. What I did is I went on Amazon and typed in essential oils to see what was the number one most popular one, right? And Healing Solutions was the top. Very cheap and a nightmare, meaning I put all of them together, lavender, lemon, and peppermint, and it smelled so rotten, like a chemical experiment got bad. So this is to help you understand, this would be in that 100% synthetic thing. It's just a fragrance. And to be very clear with you guys, the FDA labels essential oil, and you're going to hear this from many people, that they only need to put like 5% essential oil to claim it's an essential oil. That's not true at all. That is a complete farce, okay? So let's be clear on something. The FDA labels an essential oil. Their technical definition of an essential oil is, wait for it, a fragrance. So it doesn't have to have any essential oil in it. It can be 0% pure essential oil, and they can label it as 100% essential oil because it is. It's 100% pure therapeutic grade fragrance. Okay? That is the law. And so I've said this before, but Coco Chanel can all of a sudden just magically start saying that Chanel No. 5, that's been around for ages, is made out of 100% pure therapeutic grade essential oil. And they could label it that way. We would all know better, but that's the reality of the labeling market. Okay, and I need you guys to understand this, that just because it says pure and just because the company claims pure may not be. So we just have to be clear on, let's look at the historical background, how long have they been in business, what ethical standards do they uphold, are they bad-mouthing a bunch of other companies just to kind of get a leg up? That's the worst place you can be. And this is as kind of tip of the iceberg or over the line that I will ever get with companies, because I'm probably the only one that actually openly talks about it. And again, like I said, like Young Living for me is the right choice for me and my family, but for someone else it might not be. And I'm going to honor them and give them blessings because they're not using Windex, right? Like that's, at least it's better than whatever it is. You guys might have seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding and the guy used Windex on everything. Like he got a cut, put Windex on it, you know? So I kind of joke that at least it's better than Windex. So I want to encourage you guys to be your own best advocate. I want you to dig a little deeper. If you are in a position where you're like, you know what, I want to try, I want to see the difference, I would love to do a smell test with Jen, like me, and you're not working with anyone. So if you are working with someone else, like some other gal that introduced you to me who loves Young Living, ask her, say, can I please have a couple drops of lavender, or can you come over? Can we do the test that Jen talked about? There's many other tests in my book that they probably have the book and they can go through them with you. But I wanted to kind of give you a background on what to look for. You know, why would you consider a company that's super young and all of a sudden all the hype that's going on? Like put your logic cap on and just think, you know, we have to move forward with grace and love, but at the same time, we want to be smart. And I hope that this has sort of instilled in you a little bit more street smarts when it comes to all this. I am not trying to make money off of any of you guys. I would give away this stuff for free if I could. I would, and I do. I let people come over and look at oils and smell them and take some drops and stuff like that. Like my church today, I was in a new group and the girls, you know, we were all talking and I'm like, because they were asking what I do, and I know a lot of people don't know what I do, and I'm like, I'm an educator, and like, well, what topics? And I'm like, well, like oils, and I'm like, I'm not going to try and sell you guys anything because that's not my goal. But many of them, they were going around the room, and they're like, oh, I have like this kind of surgery coming up, and I've got my back pain, and I've got this weird sensation in my fingers all the time, and I'm like, I just want to help them. So for me, I want to give them stuff to try. I'm not trying to make a sale. One of the gals said, yeah, one of her good friends is a Young Living rep, and I'm thinking, great, go with her, right? My goal is not to kind of get people. You know, I got into this crazy conversation with some new gal that she's not in this group anymore simply because she got so upset with me. She was asking me to diagnose something about her dog, and I'm like, I can't. I'm not a doctor, and you're putting me and my family at huge liability risk. I can't help you one-on-one like that. I give you guys tons of information outside. And she was like, oh, you just want to make money. And I'm like, what? Right? Like, that's not my goal. My goal is to help as many people as possible, even if you're not in my downline, right? Clearly, right? Most of you guys aren't. So, but there are a few of you guys that don't have anyone that is helping you, and I would love to help you. So if you don't have someone that's helping you, you can message me and I will absolutely help you. And even if you don't sign up with me, fine. But if you are working with someone, you should be going to that person, okay? Because they are your person. And I just don't have enough time in the day to help 100,000 people or so. Getting all their questions answered. So we do the best we can, but that's what this group is for. So thanks for hanging out with me. Again, I can't give these away for free. I would love to give some away today, though. So those of you guys who stuck around and are on this or even on the replay, maybe tell me one thing that you would like to learn in this book the most, or why you want this book, and I will give 5 of these away for free. So I can do that. I can do, you know, I get Tim to mail them out. I hate mailing stuff. I'm the worst. But that's it. So watch the replay. I know this was a choppy video for many of you guys, but the replay will play just fine. And we'll do this again sometime. Usually during the week, it's probably better because it's not so funky with the internet, but that's the way it goes. If you are interested in learning about some other topics that I talk about, we're going to talk about a journal that is out right now on my author page, so you can go over to the author page, and it's just facebook.com/Jen O'Sullivan author, and I'm going on there in 1 minute. So we'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much. Bye.